Please welcome the executive producer, director, and star of The Lost City, Andy Garcia, everybody.
You don't make movies alone, you know, and you need the support of a lot of people to get you through the day, to make the days. And so, you know, these people, we're all very proud of this movie, and they've all seen the movie 1,000 times, and we're still here, you know, using these opportunities to get together and to reflect and share. So, you know, it's an important film for us, and we don't take it lightly.
And it's also a testament to you that they would still come out after seeing the film so many times. They're still coming out to support you.
They're still waiting on the checks.
Yeah. They're here for their money. Okay. But let's talk about the movie. I remember hearing you say that the inspiration of the film and everything else was about, it first started with music.
Yes.
And music to you was so important. Talk about that for a little.
Well, music has been, as a Cuban exile, music is a thing that I've always found solace in. It's something that has accompanied me all through my life, and it's something that I'm very stimulated by. And not only the music of Cuba, I mean, all kinds of music that I grew up with, but there was always something that was very profoundly nostalgic to me with the music of Cuba, and it really provoked a lot of memories for me, and I was always fascinated about that time period, which, when I was born, and it was really the golden era of Havana, the 50s, and it just kept provoking these things inside of me. And when I began to realize that there was a movie that I wanted to make, and which had all these classical elements of all the great sort of historical epics that I grew up with, you know, and it was a politically vibrant time, you know, at the brink of revolution, about family struggles, about impossible love, and having all this music and dance of the culture to set it against. I just thought that all these things would be a great stimulating tool for me, but it always was really always to use music as sort of a main protagonist in the film, and that's what motivated the film for me. And then when I read Infante's work for the first time, and I saw that his work focused a lot around the folklore and the music of Cuba and the ambience of that time period, I found an inspirational, writing source, and I was lucky that he came on board. You know, I went to his house in the Dominican in London to pitch him the idea of this is 1989.
And for people who don't know his work, what has he done?
I mentioned earlier that his most important novel that he got known for was called Three Trapped Tigers, Tres Tristes Tigres, and it was, before his death he was given the Cervantes Award, which is the highest award in Spanish literature, and so he was an extremely important individual. Not only one of probably the most intelligent and well-read and intellectual individuals that I've ever come across in my life, but also had an extraordinary sense of humor. He was sort of like a Cuban Groucho Marx, And his style of writing had all these sort of interpolations and puns and parodies, and he was a wordsmith. He had a gift of both in English and in Spanish. And when I went to visit him in London to try to sort of convince him to write this screenplay, he had a flat in London, which he lived in all his entire life in exile there. He left in about '66, so he saw the entire transition of the Cuban situation there, which he wrote about in our movie and in many of his novels. But he lived in a flat in London, and maybe the flat, a flat in London is basically a one-room. You walk into it, and it's a very rectangular room, maybe the length of this entire proscenium. But within this proscenium, you had the bedroom, the kitchen, and the main hall. And it was about a 15-foot high ceilings, because these are buildings that are row houses that were built probably, I don't know, turn of the century or something like that. So they're very high ceilings, and they've been turned into these apartments. So he sat in it, they introduced me, he said, sit, let's have it, sit. And he had his writing desk, and he had a chair that he sat in. He had his ashtray, and where he smokes his cigar, and a screening room in front. He had like a little TV with all his, because he's a really knowledgeable about film. And it was a very, so this distance was short, but it was longer this way. But behind him, the length of the floor and the entire length of the flat was a library filled with books that you couldn't fit any more books into. And then you had books that were stacked on top of the books sideways, where you had there was a little space this way and he put books. And then there were books like around him in the chair, and he was just engulfed by all these books. And I saw this place and I said, wow, this guy has a lot of books. And it was literally thousands of books. And, once I got comfortable with him, I said, Maestro, may I ask you something? He says, have you read all of these books? And he said, he has a cigar, he went, only once. And that's Gabriel Infante. He's personified in the movie by Bill Murray. Bill Murray is Gabriel Infante, even though he's played as an American expatriate. That's Gabriel Infante's specific point, sense of humor, and he uses that character as sort of a Shakespearean fool, to comment as he would like to comment and parody the absurdities that are going on in the country.
So Bill Murray's character is almost like a Greek chorus that
Yes.
goes through.
Yes, exactly. And it's Infante saying, I'm going to take an opportunity to provide some of my own absurdities, to what I witnessed and what we're going to witness in the film,
And I know he passed away. Did he get to see a final cut of it?
He saw the final cut of the film with all the temp music that was in, all the needle drops. The needle drops are the actual recordings from the era and stuff. And my temp score, which was solo piano, it hadn't been orchestrated yet.